Welcome to Bandito Rubin's Unorthodox Wisdom for Modern Man, the podcast for traditional men of faith and vision who are tired of discovering that Sunday's sermon doesn't always fix Monday's problem. If you're doing everything you can to live by the book and still find yourself feeling sad, mad, sick, or tired, you, my friend, are in the right place. I am Ruben, husband, father of 7, carpenter, cartoonist, children's book author, and former chronic worrier. We just had our first snow of the year, Thanksgiving has come and gone, and it's time for things to start getting Christmassy. Better plan where to park that mistletoe for maximum smooching potential. It's also time to start walking the property looking for a suitable Christmas tree, and it's high time to finish burning my slash piles so that my property doesn't burn to the ground next fire season. That said, let's get this crazy freak show started. Did you know that your body, your face, your posture, your muscles, is preaching emotional sermons that your soul ends up believing? And most of the time, those sermons are as harmful to our souls as sticking a fork in a light socket. Most Christian men know at least something about fasting, ascetic discipline, cold showers, sleeping on logs, ignoring comfort, and doing other masculine things that would make St. Anthony nod proudly. The saints were very clear about the value of training the flesh. St. John Chrysostom said, "The body is an excellent servant, but a terrible master." St. Isaac the Syrian said, "Make peace with your flesh by refusing it excess." And St. Benedict warned against gluttony, laziness, softness. Not because the body is evil, but because the body gets uppity real quick if you don't keep it in check. So most of us understand the don't spoil the body part. Most of us have heard the sermons, read the books, and been to the boot camp retreats. But here's the thing that the saints didn't talk about as much. Your body doesn't just tempt you with the obvious stuff: lust, sexual immorality, gluttony, addiction, so on. Sometimes your body tricks you with much subtler temptations. How? Well, the one I've got in mind is the way that your body can hijack your emotions. Your body tells your brains lies. And that's what I'm here to chat about today. So, let's get this manly discussion started by talking about Botox. Yes, I am talking about the Botox that all those movie stars are injecting into their faces and stuff. Interestingly enough, Botox actually comes from the same bacterial poison that causes botulism, the kind of food poisoning that'll kill you dead if mama makes a mistake while canning garden veggies. So what does Botox have to do with your body's tricky methods of pulling a fast one on you? Well, beginning in the early 2000s, back when I could still fit my entire family in a little Toyota 4-banger, scientists started injecting Botox into people's frown muscles, right between the eyebrows. This made it so that they couldn't make that sad, angry face. And when the Botox made it impossible to frown, crazy stuff started happening to their guinea pigs. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, reacted to anger less and less. People felt less depressed. The volume of their emotional intensity got turned down. And some folks even recovered from depression without changing a single thought. Now, I just want to say something. I said guinea pigs, but they were experimenting on people here. And when the Botox wore off, the amygdala reactivity went right back, and they went back to feeling normal emotional yuck. If you ask me, that is crazy. We're not talking about fake it till you make it, though I do think there's something to that as well. But we're talking about real scientific studies with real human bodies and real measurable emotional results. If you can't make the angry face, the angry feelings can't fully ignite. The emotional brain literally needs the physical scowl to complete the circuit. You can rev the engine all you want, but if your rig don't have any axles, you are not going anywhere. This is my conclusion. Your face can pull the trigger on your emotions, or your face can be the trigger lock. I told you about this little study because I wanted you to start thinking. There's a lot more to human behavior than we tend to believe. And there's a whole host of ways to get a misaligned mind and body back in order without just whacking everything in sight with the hammer of hardcore asceticism. Sure, we have to control ourselves, but I don't think that self-control means quite what we think it means. It does not mean wholesale brute strength warfare on the physical self. Take my dog, for example. She's a good dog. I gotta say that. But I'm gonna use her for an illustration because I love her. So suppose she's being naughty and I want to send her outside. I could, one, grab that pooch by the collar and chuck her outside by brute force. Or two, do a little bit of thinking work, strategizing, and figure out how to train Poochie Poo how to go outside on her own when I tell her to, maybe even wagging her tail the whole time. If your body is the animal part of you, like we often tend to see it as, which way is actually going to get you a pleasanter result? The messy, embarrassing fight with a naughty dog who just wants to stay in the house? Or the pleasant situation where a dog knows what you want and does it happily? And what about when Poochie Poo figures out how this game works and starts hiding under the bed so you can't reach your collar? And what about the situation where the animal you're trying to tame isn't a dog at all? What if it's a cow? A 1,500-pound cow that could just as easily squash you flat as a pancake as swat a fly. Who could gore your guts out if she turns her head too fast. Now, the body is an extension of ourself, and it is prone to many excesses. Excess in sexual drives, food consumption, alcohol consumption, drug consumption, emotional imbalances like depression, anger, bitterness, grief, worry, fear, etc. But that does not mean that you only have one obvious tool at your disposal to get that puppy acting like you want it to. I'm bringing all this up because I have found that it's really common for traditional folks to reduce everything to one of two things. One, everything is a mind game where you got to figure it all out yourself in your own head. Or two, you acknowledge the body and use asceticism such as fasting as a one-size-fits-all fix for it. My response to these is, one, life is not simply a mind game as the Botox study shows. There's a heck of a lot more going on than simple wrong thinking or poor self-control as we normally understand it. Because the mind and body are so intimately related that it's kind of hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. Which one's the cart and which one's the horse? Response number two, the ascetics are correct in treating the body as an important part of the person. I do not think they are correct in treating the harsh stuff like it's a miracle cure for all mental and emotional ailments. Like the old saying, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. In its origins, the word asceticism doesn't even mean self-denial or Spartanhood. The original word meant training, practice, or exercise, like an athlete. And what does an athlete do? Well, first, they learn the rules of the game they want to win at. Then they figure out what separates the winners from the losers. And then finally, they strive to become more like the winners than the losers. And that's it. So what game are we trying to win? Are we trying to give thanks for all things, like the Bible says? Rejoice always, love one another, practice kindness, hospitality, wisdom, gentleness, etc., etc. Not to mention even more basic stuff. Who wants to wake up actually feeling like a halfway alive human being? To lay their head down on their pillow at the end of the day, fall asleep promptly, and sleep through the night. To get old and not be one of those senior citizens with the frown permanently engraved on their faces. If that's the game we're playing, then it's essential that we learn how to actually train for it. Because the fact is, most of us are wound tighter than a banjo string. We get in habitual emotions, feelings we've rehearsed so long that the body fires them automatically. We've got habitual thoughts. Studies show most thoughts are recycled from previous days, and around 80% of them lean negative. And all of this translates into the physical. Modern neuroscience shows that anger results in a tight chest and a hot head. Fear results in a tight lower back. Worry results in stomach tension. Shame results in collapsed posture, so like hunching down. Anxiety results in shallow breathing. These patterns are universal, and like those Botox studies show, the body can then affect how the mind thinks and feels, creating a vicious cycle like a dog chasing its own tail. And so if you're perpetually tense, shoulders up, jaw locked, breathing shallow, then the body can end up leading the mind. A few years ago, when I used to struggle with worry a lot, I realized I had this crazy cycle. I would start getting worried about something stupid, and then I would feel all of the worry feelings, like a tight chest. I would frown. I'd be grumpy because I had these worries, etc., etc. And then I would forget why I was worried, but I would still be walking around experiencing all of the physical and emotional symptoms of worry. I'd catch myself and think, wait, why am I worried again? And then I would think about it until I could remember why I was worried in the first place. Or I would figure out something else to worry about. And of course, thinking about all the worrying stuff would make me feel worried again. I didn't even realize that that was my habitual behavior until I started getting really self-observant. I was like a dog chasing his own tail. And this is why it really, really matters. Our habits, our attitudes, postures, mindsets, and so on are passed on to our kids. I've heard it said, more is caught than taught. You and your wife are recreating yourselves, the good, the bad, and the ugly, in your children. And when one of them pops up being angry and depressed, what are you going to do about it if you're still a slave to those same things? So, since the stakes are so high, and since our body can easily be the anchor tying us to negative emotional experiences, I want to talk about 3 cool and easy hacks to get your body's rear in gear so that it stops ruining your happiness and raining on your whole family's parade. And I hope that once you hear about these 3 hacks, that'll get you thinking. I hope you'll notice the difference that this makes in your mood and in your thought patterns if you give it a chance. And I hope that'll make you thirsty for more. Hack 1, get Botox. Just joking. First, try some progressive muscle relaxation, or PMR. Studies show that progressive muscle relaxation reduces anxiety and depression, it improves sleep, and increases your ability to handle tough situations like the stud that you and I both know that you are. And finally, it lowers cortisol, which is that stress juice that makes people act like cranky little porcupines, trashes your health, and this is important, lowers your testosterone levels. Full stop. I don't think I need to say anything else. If something saps your testosterone, it's sapping the stuff that gives you energy, drive, physical strength, and other important male stuff. So you want to guard it carefully. So how do you do progressive muscle relaxation? It's easy peasy. It takes 2 minutes. 1, curl your toes and tighten your feet like you're trying to grip a log underwater and hold those babies there for 5 seconds. Then you drop it and let them go soft. 2, squeeze your calves, your lower legs like you're about to jump, but don't actually jump. Hold it for 5 seconds and then let them melt. 3, flex and hold those for 5 seconds. Personally, I kind of have a hard time with this one. It's tricky to flex just these muscles and not my hind end and calves. Hopefully, the PMR popo doesn't show up and give me a fine for doing it wrong. 4, stomach. Tighten your stomach like you're about to get sucker punched and hold it for 5 seconds. Then let it get loose like a saggy, baggy old balloon. 5, your chest and back. Take a big inhale, squeeze your torso, fill the ribs, tighten everything around your lungs and hold it for 5 seconds and let it go. And your shoulders, shrug them to your ears. Pretend it's that time of the month and you accidentally pissed the wife off. Hold for 5 seconds of verbal abuse and relax. 7, take your hands, make fists for 5 seconds. Don't strain any muscles, just give it a healthy middle-of-the-road squeeze. And then you release it. And your jaw, clench it tightly without hurting anything for 5 seconds and release it. You might feel the difference on that one because a lot of us guys live with our jaw half clenched all day long. 9, your eyebrows and forehead. Raise them to the roof for 5 seconds and then drop them. This turns off your fight or flight face without Botox. And 10, finish with one long, slow exhale. Let the breath fall out of you like it's the first day of a well-funded retirement. This resets the limbic system, lowers your cortisol, clears the fog, and gives your brain room to breathe. If you're getting really fancy, I think you should actually do some squeeze holds with your Kegel muscles while you're at it, because they're important, to say the least. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, Google it. You probably feel pretty good after doing this stuff, though. By relaxing your body, you're interrupting your emotional habits and resetting your brain, which is important if you're playing the same game that I'm playing. My game involves being still and knowing God, being a kind and wise father, being an attractive and elegant dude that makes my wife swoon, living a long time in good health, and not being one of those old dudes with a permanent frown chiseled into their face. And I want to be happy. And I want you to be happy. Here's another easy peasy way to commandeer your own body. It involves taking the Superman pose, the one where you stand with your feet shoulder width apart, your chest pushed out, your back straight, and your hands on your hips. A Harvard study found that holding this pose for 2 minutes increased testosterone by 19%, decreased cortisol for 25%, gave people more confidence, more willingness to take action or risks, and gave them stronger feelings of personal power. Meanwhile, standing all hunched over and small like an insecure freshman did the exact opposite. Less confidence, more stress juice, more hesitation. Kind of a no-brainer if you ask me, because we've all got to stand one way or another, may as well do it in a way that literally makes you large and in charge. This is hack number 3. Actually, I just realized I mislabeled them. This is hack number 3, and I've got 4 hacks. Anywho, hack number 3, I'm a huge fan of traditional Chinese medicine. I've been doing their back exercises for almost a decade, and my back feels healthier than ever. No more trips to the chiropractor for this hillbilly. Traditional Chinese medicine approaches the whole mind-body connection like this. Your nervous system is like a river. Tension is a dam. You break the tension, the river flows. Let the river flow, and your emotions change. Modern research confirms that the slow, measured movements of Chinese Qigong and Tai Chi reduce anxiety, reduce depression, calm the sympathetic nervous system. That's the alarm system that's making us all angry and cranky and worried all the time. Gives you more vitality and creates emotional stability. Body shifts create emotional shifts, which create mental clarity. Finally, bonus tip number 4, EFT tapping is another method rooted in Chinese medicine. EFT is a specific way to tap on the Chinese acupressure points that help the body release tension in the nervous system, releasing emotions and patterns. This one is incredible. I've seen videos of people tied in knots over mental problems like PTSD. They do this acupressure tapping, and rather than an elephant tramping through the living room of their minds, the problem has become a drawing of an elephant in a book on the bookshelf. It's not like they forget. It's just like the power has been removed. Probably because the physical bond that they had with their trauma just kind of got unwired. Kind of like what we were talking about with the Botox study. They change something in the body, and then it changes something in their minds and emotions. Studies show that EFT tapping also lowers cortisol, lowers amygdala activation, reduces anxiety, depression, phobias, improves emotional processing, and allows fast downshifting from big emotions. People successfully use it for public speaking panic, intrusive thoughts, grief surges, anger spikes, cravings, traumatic memories, stress reactivity, things like fear of flying, feeling overwhelmed, social anxiety, and even shame responses. I'm sick of seeing people trying to think their way out of emotions, going around and around in circles, miserable, sick, unhappy, and wasting time. Ironically, they usually end up with a deeply furrowed eyebrow from all that strain and tension, and they get absolutely nowhere because they're fighting the wrong battle. Everything in their body is creating a situation and taking their minds for a ride. The clenched jaw is preaching fear. The hunched shoulders are preaching defeat. The shallow breathing is preaching danger. The defensive posture is preaching shame. The tense muscles are preaching panic. And the brain believes it and reacts accordingly by figuring out something to be upset about. Now, it doesn't have to be fear. It could be anger. It could be anything. And this is the part that I really want people to know. Just as easily as the body could be preaching doom and gloom, it could be preaching confidence, or peace, or tranquility, or joy, or love, or kindness. If you flip the body, you flip the sermon, and your soul hears something new, and you start feeling something new, and you start thinking in new ways, better ways. This isn't unspiritual. It's just good, responsible stewardship. Romans 12:1 says, "Present your bodies as a living sacrifice." Do you seriously think that the Israelites did nothing to prepare their sacrifices? No little bath, no little cleanup? Or do you think they just slapped that puppy as is on the altar with zero preparation? What kind of preparation are you doing to make your body do what your mind wants it to do? Because if you're living by accident, chances are you're going to default into one of these negative states we've been talking about, because that's what everybody does, and that's why we're all sick and unhappy. So I want you to remember, you won't feel like a free man if your body's alarms are going off. Posture is a prophecy. Breath is a prayer of expectation. If it's shallow, you're expecting danger. If it's deep and relaxed, you're ready for good stuff. Change the body, and the body will produce different emotions, and different parts of the brain are able to work like they should. Emotions in the body aren't the enemy, but most of us have been treating our bodies like a compost heap rather than a garden. So if your spirit has got direction and your body just isn't working right, maybe it's time to readjust your life strategies. After all, if your car keeps overheating and you've already changed the thermostat and it's still overheating, why would you change the thermostat again? Why not see what other parts on your car might be acting up? It's also entirely possible that you are so used to being mad, worried, or ashamed that you don't even realize it anymore. I know that's been me more often than not. And this is the great part. Once you break through and you start feeling healthy, happy, and awesome, you can help other people feel the same way. You can teach your children, and you can teach your wife. And if your family is happy, then I'm happy, and the rest of society will be happy, because we need more happy homes in this day and age. If this helped you, share it with the guy who's white knuckling his emotions and thinks he should just try harder. Give it a like and follow, and stay tuned for más información about this kind of stuff.